Thank you. We'll move right into the superintendent's report. Mr. Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. We have some wonderful things to celebrate with our retirees, Students of the Month. Got the project with the 1,000 Book Project Award, wonderful accomplishment, and we're honoring a fantastic now retiree but former teacher for a Distinguished Friends Award, and also a special New York State School Boards Association recognition tonight. So very glad that you're all here tonight, and we're looking forward to celebrating some fantastic people that have done some fantastic things for our school district. I also want to make sure it's known out there publicly. We have a big event at the end of this week, graduation, I think they call it. 6 o'clock on Friday the 21st, 6 o'clock. It is a rain or shine event. Please all start putting in your thoughts and prayers that we want to move towards the shine side of that. That way we're outside, and all are welcome to attend. In the event that there is inclement weather, the ceremony does move inside, and there are limited seats based on ticket holders. That's why we want it to be outside. So we're really looking forward to a Friday night outdoor celebration of our graduates for the class of 2019. We also have two wonderful ceremonies next week. Tuesday, 9:30 in the morning, we have the elementary moving up ceremony where the fifth graders cap off their time in elementary school and move up to the middle school. Looking very much forward to that. And then at 1 o'clock that afternoon, we are having our celebration of our middle schoolers moving up from 8th grade to 9th grade at 1 o'clock. So truly a magical time of year, a very busy time of year for us, and we're looking forward to all those wonderful celebrations. Last piece of an announcement, several months ago, Verizon Wireless approached the school district and made some general proposals about potentially putting up a Verizon service tower out near the high school site. And just letting the public and the board know that there is a more formal proposal that is going to become formal proposal for the board to consider hopefully within the next few weeks, that they would like to put a full tower up out at the high school. So this Board of Education will look at that proposal once it's available and make a decision as to whether or not that is a project that the board will support. Look at the revenue package to see that there's rent that we receive from it, but also, as it's well known in the community and certainly out at the site there at the high school, there's a major gap in cellular service in that area. So with a full-size pole, it would also allow for other carriers to add onto that pole beyond Verizon too. So that's a project that we're watching as closely as possible because, quite honestly, for us, it's a safety issue when we can't get cell service out there. And we'll see where it goes as far as Verizon's final proposal for this board to consider. And with that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. There'll be no student representatives report tonight. They're both on the senior trip, enjoying themselves. So we'll move right on to Student of the Month.
Let's start Student of the Month with our elementary level.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June meeting, which is very exciting for us. A very special Student of the Month this month, fifth grader Gabriel Appler, and he will be introduced by his special teacher, who is having her last, two teachers, but one of them, Mrs. Inesco, is having her last Student of the Month of her illustrious career here in Marlborough, so it is a very special time, and she's going to come up with Mrs. Jennifer Fox and tell us all about Gabriel. So welcome, everyone.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Fox, and I co-teach with Mrs. Inesco, and I have the pleasure of working with Gabe every day. On behalf of our team, we would like to say that Gabe is an outstanding student and a true definition of a Marlboro Duke, both in and out of the classroom. He brightens every day with a cheery and contagious smile and positive attitude. Gabe is always eager to participate in class discussions and class activities. He takes on the role of a quiet leader as he models quality characteristics of integrity, responsibility, perseverance, and respect towards both his teachers and his classmates. Recently, he has been working on putting together his Vincent van Gogh poster board for BioBash. As you can see for yourselves, it's a work of art. Gabe pays close attention to detail and puts forth his best effort in everything he does. This year, upon teacher recommendation, he has completed the reading of all 7 of the Harry Potter series, which is an accomplishment in itself. He really takes his education seriously, and we all admire him for that. Gabe's positive energy and outstanding behavior makes him an excellent choice for Student of the Month.
Let's jump up to the high school. Mr. Lawler?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite up Vesa Lokai, a 9th grade student in all honors program, fantastic student in our building. And she's going to be introduced by our earth science teacher and also track coach, Tom Fassel. Tom actually just got up this morning at 6 o'clock from track nationals in North Carolina and drove straight through to get here tonight. So I know he's very eager to present to Vesa. Vesa, congratulations.
So I'm stubborn. My wife says I need glasses, so if you see me squint, that's why. So first off, I just wanted to, I wrote some things down because there was a lot of things that I was very impressed with Vesa this year, and I had to, make sure I kept my train of thought halfway decent. So first off, I'm going to say, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you handle it. Vesa has challenged in terms of how she thinks in class, how she handles those things in terms of imperfect scenarios, and she also handles every scenario with the calmness and patience well past her age. As the great John Shillito once said, be your own educational advocate. Vesa has that in spades. It's amazing the thoughtful questions, the insight, the overall maturity she has brought to her earth science class this year. Vesa, so this is where I have to squint. I apologize. I have to also try to read my own handwriting. If Vesa were to be enrolled in college this fall as a sophomore in high school, I would have no doubt with the success that she would have. And I mean that. It's not only Vesa helping herself, it's also how she helps and supports the other classmates in her class. I now have to turn the page. So it is my honor to have had the opportunity to teach Vesa this year. It was my absolute honor. And I can't wait to see when she grows up the difference she's going to make in the world around her. So congratulations and thank you very much.
Mr. Stanmeyer, can we take care of the middle school next, please? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. The board, I figured you'd jump around, Mr. Brooks. I was telling Mr. Monroe that I don't think we're going to go after the elementary school. But thank you for saving us for the last. We get to end our year with a bang. We have 2 8th grade young women here tonight. Very proud of both of them. Just really shining beacons of positivity in our building. So the first one I'm going to have come up is Stephanie Petrie with her physical education teacher, Mike Monroe.
All right, so this is my first year having Stephanie in class. I didn't have her in 6th grade, but Stephanie always made sure to say hello. So, that's one of her characteristics Stephanie has. She's a very personable individual, and I think that's one, as I go along with a couple different characteristic traits, that's one that you definitely have. So don't ever change that. I would say my first year teaching Stephanie, she's always prepared, she's punctual for class, she's very helpful, and she's a leader. And it goes beyond just in physical education. I got to coach her in track, and besides getting the team organized and leading stretches and all that, her teammates actually look up to her a lot. And I think she may not always agree with that, but I know it's the case. And what makes Stephanie pretty awesome is that she's very self-reflective, and she absorbs a lot of information, and she always would go to Mr. Monroe, did I do this correct, Mr. Monroe? Did I do this right? Am I doing this correctly? Am I doing this right? Do I need to work on anything? And that's a great characteristic to have, especially as you move up in life, to take advice from others and learn from it. And many of those conversations we had after track meets or after physical education class or during physical education class, especially the specific skills you don't like, because we can't always play soccer. So those things went a long way, and those things I'm going to miss about Stephanie. And I think those things will make her very successful in life because, again, she can absorb information, she's a leader, she's very personable, and she's destined to do great things in the future. And I'm looking forward to hearing about all your accomplishments at the high school and beyond. Stephanie, it's my pleasure to present you as Student of the Month this year for middle school.
Right, and our second student tonight is Adriana Oakes, being presented by Alicia Hudak and the purple team. So Adriana, come on up with Mrs. Hudak.
Science fiction author Ursula K. Le Guin once said, "We read books to find out who we are. What other people, real or imaginary, do and think and feel is an essential guide to our understanding of what we ourselves are and may become. Literature has the power to help shape our perceptions of others in the world and ultimately who we are, and has undoubtedly helped to shape one of our esteemed guests this evening. Adriana Oakes is the type of person who always has a book at her fingertips and who is always eager to read and share a tale. And it gave me great comfort to know that I had an ally in reading each day during second period ELA. It takes a very astute and wise person to know great literature, and I would often walk past her desk, remark on the titles she would devour in seemingly no time. Her zest for reading was a source of inspiration to me each day, and a comfort to know that someone in my room understood the power of reading, how it can transform, enlighten, excite, and make us feel less alone in this world. Her love of the written word has transcended into her other classes as well. Her Spanish teacher said, "Adriana is a quiet but hardworking student who excels in the area of Spanish. She is detail-oriented and is curious about grammar and new vocabulary." Her math teacher also took note of her character and passion for reading. Adriana is the type of student who walks into the room and smiles, does everything expected of her, but is painfully shy. As the year has gone by, she has slowly come out of her shell and is much more involved and willing in class. I also enjoy that she has a passion for reading and is a superhero fan. Adriana, we have enjoyed watching you progress throughout this past school year with your strength of character, attention to detail, commitment to hard work, and love of learning. You've been an inspiration to us all, and we look forward to your future endeavors as you move on to the high school in fall. In the great words of former Harvard President Charles W. Eliot, I hope you always remember that books are the quietest and most constant of friends. They are the most accessible and wisest of counselors and the most patient of teachers. Congratulations.
You know, in just a little bit, we're going to be speaking about some other wonderful people with some wonderful accomplishments. We've got some retirees here tonight, and we're celebrating their time here in Marlboro. And certainly when we hear things like we've got a calmness and a patience that exceeds even what an adult would show in a world where we need a lot more calmness and patience. We've got children in front of us that are insightful. They do projects on Vincent van Gogh in 5th grade. They get through all of Harry Potter like it's nothing. Details matter. They're eager to read. They're determined to do great things. Role models, leaders. They're helpful and supportive of others. These are the characteristics that are Dukes. These are wonderful characteristics that all of you should carry throughout your entire lives. So I so appreciate who you are. I'm glad that we're still going to have you next year, that we don't have any graduating seniors, that we're just going to have another year for you to spread that same kind of character to others. But I also want to make sure I note the teachers that are here tonight and the example that you've provided to these wonderful people so that they can grow and nurture, and you nurture them in their path to figure out what this thing called life is. So what a wonderful way to capstone for some of our retirees here tonight, hearing about some students that we've absolutely had impact on. So thank you to the students and the families that came to support them tonight, and certainly thank you to the teachers that have helped to craft what we have here tonight. So I'm proud to be a Duke, and I know that we've got some wonderful Dukes in the room, and this is what it takes to be a Duke. So thank you very much.
Okay, next, Ms. Celeste Ricciardone will come up and on behalf of the Marlboro Faculty Association, present the 1,000 Book Project Completion Certificate.
Well, I couldn't have asked for a better segue into this. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hudak. I'd like to thank the Board of Education members for allowing me to present the Marlboro Faculty Association's 1,000 Book Project Award to our latest family who's completed the 1,000 Book Project. For those of you who don't know, the 1,000 Book Project was started by the Marlboro elementary teachers in 2005 in an effort to help our youngest learners. It was part of a global initiative for early intervention that was intended to start reading instruction on a firm foundation. While we were searching for ways to improve our students' performance, we found research that supported that children who have had 1,000 books read to them before formal reading instruction begins experience greater success in learning to read. Imagine just sitting on your parents' lap 1,000 times. That alone would ensure success in something. So we started this program along with some other initiatives to help our students. We realized that while it might be beneficial to read 1,000 books, it's difficult for parents to buy and store that many books. So we invested in the the 1,000 Book Project. We enlisted the help of local community service organizations, businesses, and private donors, and they joined us in purchasing 100 packs of books with 10 books in each pack. Since that time, we've been able to buy 2 sets so that we can circulate through our 2 libraries to all the families in our community. And we still take donations to cover replacement books and packs. And that brings us to tonight and our award-winning family, the Catherine Carey family. Please come up, Catherine. Now, just this past week, the elementary school sponsored the kindergarten screening, where kindergarten children come to the gym and they're given certain assessments that will help their teachers to know a little bit more about them before they start school. The administration has been so kind as to let the MFA have a table to display the book packs and explain the 1,000 Book Project to incoming kindergarten families. And it was at just such an event 2 years ago that Catherine and her mom and dad found out about the 1,000 Book Project. They signed up immediately and attacked the program with a vengeance. It takes a lot to finish the program at all. We have many students who start. We've only had about 30 families finish. But to finish in 2 years is very commendable. From what I understand, the first year went very well, but by the second year, there was a little cajoling and bribery involved. Yes, Dad is retired, so this became his challenge, and he kept Catherine focused. It's been noted and confirmed that a father's involvement in their children's education is one of the most compelling forces and a determining factor in student success. Garland Carey has been one of those dads who wants the best for his children's education and is determined to make it happen. So he stuck with it, and he kept the whole family focused on getting the packs read. He and Virgin, his wife, are to be commended for their diligence. He told me tonight that creating a love for reading was one of his utmost goals. So we're so happy that we could partner with you to make that happen. And Catherine, I'm going to give you some gifts right now. Please accept our Reading Achievement Certificate for reading 1,000 books. And also, we have an autographed copy of Nick Bruhl's book, Boing. It's a great book. It's kind of like a graphic novel. I think you'll really enjoy it. And our pièce de résistance, our 1,000 book t-shirt that says that you have read 1,000 books. Thank you so much.
you so very much.
We could put this all in here for you together, and there you go. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Celeste. Don't break that. So every year, the Ulster School Boards Association, each district gets to pick somebody who's a distinguished person in the community that really goes out of their way to help in education. So the board this year nominated Ann Casey, and we'd like her to come up. She couldn't be there the night of the award ceremony, so we want to do that here tonight. Programs that you have. You couldn't be there, so
Thank you, everyone.
congratulations. Sure. You can if you want to. You should have said it. Mrs. Casey, I hear you have something to say. Please, come up and say it. Yes, go ahead. Come on. Well, that's good. You have to now. Now we know that. See, be retired doesn't mean you don't have to listen anymore. Come on. No, they don't. Come on. Everybody. Does everybody want to hear Mrs. Casey what she has to say? Yes.
You know I'm an English teacher, and you know it's long. Put your feet up. Relax a little bit. Sorry. You really want it? Okay. Mr. Malazza and Board of Education members, I want to begin by thanking you for nominating me for this award, and Mr. Malazzo and Mr. Brooks for accepting it on my behalf at the recognition dinner a couple weeks ago. The fact that there are so many members of this community who are equally deserving, who have dedicated themselves to the education of our children, makes this recognition especially sweet, and I thank you. But I need to share the credit because I couldn't have earned this type of accolade alone. There are 3 sets of people I would be remiss not to mention: my family, my colleagues, and my community. And I'm really not going to mention every single colleague that I would like to mention, I swear. As the members of the administration and our board are well aware, the support of families allows us to go above and beyond. You couldn't be here tonight if it weren't for the members of your families who might have been cooking dinner, cleaning up, completing chores around the house, or carting your children around to their different activities. For every committed individual, there's almost always full family support. So I want to begin by honoring my family's role in allowing me to be an effective teacher. I'm not going to go into all the specifics, but there's many reasons that I owe them for this award. But it also belongs to my many colleagues and administrators who have made my days so much fun. I looked forward to getting up and going to school each day for 38 years. Among the innumerable individuals who supported me with their ideas, their knowledge, and laughter, I was also fortunate to be embraced by two groups of colleagues at opposite ends of my career who were both instrumental in my development as a teacher. Years ago, when I was very inexperienced and a very insecure teacher, I was invited by Marion Lyons to attend a school visitation in Westchester with a group of teachers who were legendary to me. There were 6 of us who were given a reassignment day to observe best practices in writing instruction and to bring those practices back to Marlborough. When we arrived, I remembered being daunted by the sheer stature of these 5 women who seemed to tower over me as I scampered behind them. Kathy Seibert, Kathy Verga, Susan Spinelli, Marion Lyons, and Julie Amadeo were paragons of educational excellence, and I was so proud to be in their company. By including me in their group, by validating my opinions about instruction, these women empowered me. They gave me confidence in my ability. Through their example, they showed me that all good teachers, regardless of how long they've been teaching, must continue to learn, to open their minds to new trends, to listen to their students, their administrators, and their colleagues. Their inspiration continues to drive me today. Jump forward about 25 years to another group of women, my English department from about 12 years ago. There were 6 of us at the time: Marissa Rantanella, Christy Martino, Jessica Fries, Marlene Berkowitz, Ricky Mazzella, and me. To say we were a strong group is an understatement. But together we became a force of persnickety perfectionists who pushed each other, who challenged each other, who encouraged each other to open our minds, to think, to question ourselves. We were a very tough group, and it was sometimes painful, but they caused me to strive to be the best teacher I was capable of being. All of my amazing colleagues, these 2 groups, and every one of the individuals deserve credit for tonight's award. Finally, I would never have received this award without my community, beginning with our collective boards of education over time, who deserve recognition for their time, commitment, and support. I think back to Mrs. Pat Russo, who read every single book my English department recommended for board approval, and then she approved the worthy ones, regardless of whether or not they were controversial, and she had to take heed for it. All of that continued over time, and the support that our boards have given us is incredible. And then just a couple years ago, there were some people in the community who criticized my choice of a book for 12th grade English. And it had been board approved, and the board stuck behind me, and many of you, at least half of you maybe, I know Mrs. Horton and Mr. Malazzo were on board at the time, and they supported me and supported our students who came here in front of the community and presented, and they're still teaching that book today. And so it's that kind of support that allows teachers to be good. Okay, sorry. My former students and their parents, and I know this sounds silly and I'm almost done, but entire families in the Marlborough community, and I started writing names of the families down, and I was just so afraid that I was going to leave one of these like pillars of our community out. But without them, without the students who then became the parents of my students, they've given me the strength and the courage and the ability to continue when things grew challenging. Seeing my former students and their parents wherever I go has allowed me to continue teaching. In my 38 years, whenever I questioned myself or was having a low moment or a week, I would be bolstered by a story of success that was somehow credited to me. I lived and continue to live for those kind words and anecdotes. They have buoyed me up for 38 years, and I hope will continue to keep me afloat. So on behalf of my family, my colleagues, and my community, I gratefully accept this satisfying honor. Thank you.
And And that's why you got the award. So the next, the New York State School Boards Association offers all kinds of continuing training, and board members have mandated training, and then there's also additional training you can take on top of that, and then they have achievement levels as you go through it. So one of our board members has reached achievement level 1, and on behalf of the New York State School Boards Association, Board Achievement Award to Susan Horton of the Marlborough Central School District for participation in the New York State School Boards Association Leadership Development Training totaling 75 points, issued in 2019. Congratulations. Mr. Brooks, we'll turn it over to you for the retirees.
Terrific. So we have an illustrious group of retirees this year. Mr. Bakatsias has got some prepared words for our retirees, and it's not only staff members too. We have a couple of board members that are moving away from the dais after actually after tonight's meeting that we're going to be sadly missing. So I want to make sure that I point out Mr. Conley, who's going to be leaving us also this year, and also Mr. Perugino, who can't be with us tonight. But also our student reps that aren't here tonight because today is their senior trip. So we said, you can go on a senior trip, you don't need to be here tonight. But Elizabeth and Matt just did a fantastic job. But I think that the retirees that are here tonight, that Mike's going to speak to in just a minute, really, the words I said earlier about our children today, and if you spend some time on YouTube looking at our previous meetings when you have nothing to do, the section for Student of the Month always highlights characteristics that transcend each meeting. They really do. There's a common theme amongst the children, and it's not purely academic. It's a lot focused on character. It's a lot about outlook on the future and how you look at life. Life is a precious commodity, and the people that come to us every month as students of the month really do get that and understand it. They may not understand it right now, but when I listen to the characteristics that are spoken of about our children, they understand what life is all about. And our retirees need to celebrate that they had a huge piece of that. I mean, the 3 A's truly matter in the school district. Academics, the arts, the athletics are so important. 3 important pillars in this community. Ms. Casey spoke of pillars. Those are pillars in this community, and it's exemplified by outcome. Our academics are so strong, and our kids excel. Our arts programs are to die for. You go to a concert, you go to a play, it's just fantastic. And the sporting events and the achievements that we have in the sporting world on the contest fields, just short of miraculous. There's just so much great stuff in this little gem that we call Marlborough. Please, every chance that you get, celebrate how wonderful it is here. It's a great little gem in the middle of a beautiful valley they call the Hudson Valley. So with that, I'd ask Mike to speak to our retirees and in his unique flair and the way that he does. So.
Thank you. I just realized that these are only going to be together for just another minute. So thank you and welcome, everyone. We have 6 retirees that we're going to be thanking and congratulating this evening, some of which were not able to be with us this evening. However, they're listed in alphabetical order. And the first is with us in Barbara Carafano, who's been a teaching assistant for 21 years in the district. I would have to say that Barbara is one of the most professional employees. She's always carried herself very well. She's been a leader among her peers, and she's been a representative for her unit, UPSEU, for much of that time. Her leadership was always appreciated in working with administration and working through issues, but really her value was in the building, working with children and staff and class members. She always focused on the children, and for that, we thank you. We'll have all the retirees who are here up in a moment as we present them with their plaque. Next is Jane Gannon, it's unfortunate that she's not with us. Jane worked with many of our high needs students in academic intervention services. She has 21 years with the district as well. She really never sought the limelight. She was very kind and had a very kind and gentle way about her, very humble. She has served generations of Marlboro students and helped them in so many facets of their education at Marlboro Elementary School. And for that, Jane, we thank you. It's interesting we find these names next to each other, but our next guest is here this evening in Michelle Anusco. She's adored by her students and parents who speak very, very highly of her. It's on more than one occasion that I have heard, well, our children had Mrs. Anusco. Married also to another endeared employee who retired not that long ago in Dave Anusco, and we're happy to see him here. Michelle always maintained very high expectations for her students. Another extreme professional, but does so in a very humble and quiet manner. You'll notice that she was up here and did not speak. But in her classroom, there's no doubt about who's in charge and what those students have to do. And for that, Michelle, and your 30 years of service to Marlboro schools, we thank you so much. Our next guest is here as well, another teaching assistant in Jo Marie Pagano. As a teaching assistant, she also worked with some of our highest needs students. Many of those years spent one-to-one assigned to students of special needs, but also worked with many other students in the class around her. She has 20 years in the district and was always, some of the employees described her always as carrying herself as a very compassionate, heartfelt, warm employee who was very much appreciated by the parents and students that she served, and staff as well. Jo Marie, you will be missed. Next employee retired during this year. That is Gary Selenovich. He worked just under 10 years with the district and served Marlboro well as a custodian and sometimes maintenance, but really went out of his way to make sure those classrooms were ready for learning activities, students, and our staff. And for that, he will be much missed. Good luck, Gary. Last but not least, Janice Smith, who had 10 years with the district, liked at Marlboro Elementary School, and also was a special education teacher serving some of our highest needs students. She always worked well collaboratively with many teachers in that building, and we thank her for her service. Collectively, these 6 individuals have served Marlboro for 111 years. So at this time, I would ask those who are in the audience to come on up so we can present you with your plaques and, of course, take your picture. And good luck in retirement.
So just, and I know Mike touched on it, Russell, you've given 6 years unto some very tumultuous times, and it's been a great pleasure and honor having you working with the group as part of the board, bring a good insight, a different opinion. It's, you know, the nice thing about the makeup of the board, you all have different, everybody's got a different background, and can bring different things to the board. It's, as you know, can be very demanding. I don't know what you're going to do with all the free time, but thank you very much for your 6 years of service to the district. It has been greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So now we are going to pause for some cake and cookies, but only for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll resume the meeting rather than making you sit through all of our regular part of the meeting and then have some cake. So we'll just...
Joanne Reed, Newburgh. The only question I have is on the stipend positions. There's some of them that say to be determined. Why would you approve them if there's no amount on them? There's quite a few of them that are on there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time those are going to be there, and we have to negotiate that still? They were clubs or
That's correct. So there is no salary or stipend for the 1920 school year for the TBDs.
Correct. So they shouldn't be approved until there is a salary that goes with them.
The contract, once we negotiate with the MFA and we approve that, it will be retroactive to whatever the agreement was.
Yeah. But again, it shouldn't be there until it's done. Thank you.
Any other comments on the agenda? Okay, we'll move to consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the contracts, agreements, and reports as presented. Personnel recommendation, 2020 8th grade class trip to Washington, D.C. Can I have a motion? Susan, second. John Marrow. Any discussion? John, you had a question, didn't you?
I thought you were separating the class trip.
No, we're doing the personnel recommendations
All
and the
underneath
class
there.
trip.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a question. I'd just like to get a little more clarity on how the calculations for savings in the proposed recommendations here to eliminate 2 full-time teaching assistant positions and replace them with 3 part-time. I know that there's a savings from the benefits, but what I'm trying to understand the math is if you have 3 people against 2 people, even though it's part-time and full-time, at some point I would think the annual increases might catch up. The 3 would catch up to the 2, and at some point maybe even surpass it, and does that still result in a savings 3, 5, 6 years down the road because of the whole thing that you calculated out?
So I'm going to pass that to Ms. Mealy. Just a joke. A little levity, that's all.
I don't care who answers. Just somebody explain it.
So we did a comparison in terms of what we projected out if our existing employees stayed in those positions for the next 10 years. We then compared that to the suggested model of 3 part-time TAs versus a model of replacing those 2 with another 2 full-time TAs. So essentially over the course of 10 years, there's an overall savings of $8,490 to the district going 10 years out. It looks at about year 7, we start to see where the costs become slightly more under the 3 part-time TAs, about $45 for the year. But what you have to look at really is the number of hours associated with that work, because the 2 full-time TAs, you're getting 2,340 hours a year, and the 3 part-time TAs, you're getting 2,970 hours a year. So it really comes to a difference. In year 7, the 2 full-time TAs cost on average $44.34 an hour all in, where the 3 part-time TAs cost $34.95 an hour. So about $10 an hour less per person per hour. So, you know, the net over 10 years is a net savings to the district, and with a significant number. I mean, you're looking at, 6,300 extra hours of contact time with students over that period of time.
Okay, so that's where I wasn't sure how the math added up.
Right.
So the salary increases on both sides proportionally, but so does the benefits too.
Right,
The
and
costs increase
that
there.
model right there is the assumption, the two full-time TAs that we have that are retiring had individual health plans. So my model with the replacement, they both had individual health plans. If they both were to choose family, then that would just blow it out of the water.
Well, that's good. One question just for my knowledge. So when I looked at the contract schedule, I didn't see a part-time salary, so it's prorated. So does a part-time employee, in this case, let's use the example, get paid by the hour, or does just 30 versus 35?
It would be based on 5.5 hours a day.
But do they always work 5.5, or could some work less and they get paid accordingly?
Correct.
And then they get paid accordingly?
Correct.
So that's almost like an hourly
Like a
rate,
per
up to
diem,
5.5?
per hour, correct.
Okay. No, because I certainly agreed with the whole idea in terms of where it buys you the flexibility and get the extra hours. I didn't do the math, and I figured you did, or were in some way. At some time, logically, it said, well, 3 salaries at some point proportionally would raise above 2, but didn't know how much the benefit increases would offset that.
Correct.
And continue to offset that as time goes on. So if you did a 10-year model, then it's a no-brainer, because even if it broke even, it's not more expensive, and you're saying there's still a savings after 10 years. So
Correct.
that's too far out to look anyway, but at least if there's everything
Right, who knows
assumed to
what
stay the
what
same.
the matrix of the program needs are going to be at that point.
Okay, I'm good then. Thank you so much for doing that work.
No
or
problem,
at least summarizing it for my...
No problem.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
So the Board of Education just approved a probationary appointment for Emma Alberino. Emma's been with us for some time as a part-time speech teacher. So back in March of 2016, Emma started with us in the world of speech. So thank you very much for the service you've been providing. And now our needs have gotten to the point, and our budget allows us to approve Emma as a probationary teacher. So Emma has a certification in speech and language disabilities, kindergarten through 12th grade. She did her undergraduate work at the at SUNY Oswego. Wonderful school, by the way. That's where I went. She has a BA in broadcasting and mass communication, and then went on for her master's at SUNY New Paltz for a communications disorders master's. So, Emma, welcome again to Marlborough.
Okay, we'll move on to recommended actions. TRS Reserve Fund, resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, establishes a TRS Retirement Contributions Reserve Subfund as presented. Can I have a motion? James, second. Russell, any discussion?
We could just have an explanation. We could just have an explanation of the benefits of such reserve.
Sure. We're legally allowed to have an ERS reserve, which is the Employee Retirement System, which is non-certificated personnel. The annual liability to the ERS reserve is significantly less than the TRS reserve because the majority of our salaries within the district are TRS salaries, certificated. So for a number of years, there's been an effort to allow school districts to have a TRS reserve to help offset increases in TRS payments that we really have no control over on a year-to-year basis. So finally, the legislature has allowed a TRS reserve fund to be established as a sub-fund of the ERS reserve. And all it does really is give us the ability to put some money away against potential TRS expenses so that when we do get hit with a significant increase in the contribution rate, that money is available to help soften that blow, so to speak, budgetarily.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Took them long enough to finally do it.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 6-0. Bond resolution. This is the formal. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, authorize the bond resolution for construction improvements and alterations to the various school buildings and sites as presented. Can I get a motion? John Morrow, second. James. Any discussion? We already approved accepting it. This is the formal vote for the actual legal one. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, 6-0. We're going to table the lease. Can I get a motion to table the lease?
Why are we doing that?
We'll explain once we do a motion. We'll go. James, second. Russell? Mike, you want to?
Sure. We have a minor last-minute piece that I need to review with the Board of Education tonight before we move on for approval. So we would anticipate moving this to the July 1st meeting. So I'll review that as it's a contractual negotiation with the board in executive session.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, 6-0. This is the recommendation action construction management service. I'm going to read the actual resolution, Pat, because it just seemed like there's some words missing from the first part. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Marlborough Central School District approves the fee proposal dated May 8, 2019, submitted by Jacobs Program Management Company, Jacobs, in response to the RFP for construction management services for his Vision 2020 capital improvement project, and further authorize the board president to sign a contract with Jacobs subject to the negotiation of terms and conditions as recommended by the district's council. Can I have a motion? Russell, second. James? We'll do some discussion. You want to, James or Russell, the facilities committee want to?
Yeah, so basically we had interviews last, was that Thursday, Frank?
Yes.
Last Thursday. We interviewed 2 firms, and in the end we felt that, I don't really know how much I can say. We kind of felt that this firm, when it came to the RFP, this firm was very precise on what they answered. They answered all the questions in the RFP. They came prepared to answer the questions that we had given them. You know, they kind of knew it was going to be a question and answer thing. They came in prepared to answer questions. And it was, I'm not going to say it was easy. It was tough. We hemmed and hawed a little bit, but in the end we decided that it's time for a little change. You know, when they presented themselves, especially when it came to the safety part, this firm was, you know, God forbid somebody gets hurt on this property. If you think your taxes are high now, it's going to go through the roof. And when we talked about the safety, this firm, frankly, they hit it out of the park. This was the way we leaned. So,
Russell, anything else on that? Yeah, so basically, I mean, the committee, after going through and reviewing all the proposals, and, you know, it was 3, 1 was eliminated in the first round, and then 2 were actually, interviews were conducted. There's no cost associated at this point. That's got to be negotiated, but first we have to select one so we can negotiate the final contract. Any other questions?
So when you were looking at the 2 firms together, one had a better safety record over the other? Is there a specific?
it wasn't so much, I mean, I'll speak for myself on this, it wasn't so much the record. Both firms are safe, but this one, the way they presented how they're going to react to different scenarios was, you know, when it comes to safety, if you do something wrong, in my opinion, you need to be walked off the property. You know what's expected of you.
Well, and also, I think the big thing is this firm was the most 100% responsive to our RFP.
Yes.
It was, you could take RFP, proposal, go through it one by one, followed instructions very clearly, which we would hope that anybody that's trying to get our business would do. And they by far were the one that was. So, Pat, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, you know, in terms of the safety piece, you know, they really took ownership being responsible for job safety, where the other firm acknowledged safety protocols should be in place, but didn't really have the same proactive approach to how they intended to manage that. So that was a big piece of it. We also felt that Jacobs, as a company, had more depth in terms of resources available on the back end, and those kind of combinations led to the feeling that they were right for this job.
Yeah, and I apologize for not mentioning, given the scope of the project that we're talking about, we felt in the end that Jacobs is a very large firm. There's nothing we can do here that we don't feel Jacobs could handle, bar none.
I also felt that following the design implementation from the architect, I felt that the Jacobs Group had a much better protocol when speaking about it, their protocol on making sure that the actual design was followed and going back to the architect to make sure that things were able to be built properly was a very strong piece as well.
Did you have opportunity to speak to other districts that have used this firm?
Patrick did.
Yes, we spoke to districts that use both firms. One of the districts where Jacobs is now is in New Rochelle, which has Carl Thurneau as their facilities director, who used to head up buildings, facilities at SED in Albany, and he just raved about their capabilities. So we got good reviews from both firms, but obviously someone at that level who's used to dealing with projects on a statewide level, a glowing recommendation from him is significant.
I was on the committee but missed 2 out of 3 meetings, so the key meetings, the last 2, and I was there for the first one. So all I can do is comment on what I read and what we discussed in the first one, and I can confirm what was said about the fact that the RFPs were definitely, Jacobs was more aligned with every single question or every single requirement. It was a response. They had, their staffing was aligned with that, and they could explain it, exactly why their numbers were what they were. At least from what I didn't hear them explain it, but from what these guys told me, it was more in line with our RFP and what we asked for. And that's not to say the other one wouldn't maybe get there, but they didn't come out of the gate that way, which I felt after listening to the response here is that had a lot to do with the depth that they're referring to. They have the depth in the back office to take care of some of that detail, which over long run of this project will probably be very important to us, right? Attention to details. If they need to do some extra paperwork or take ownership of safety issues, even if they don't own the resolution, but take the ownership of coordinating the resolution and other things that came up, they seem to have that better impression. They're more staffed, they're more aligned to it, and thinking of the answers already ahead of the other 3. So that's, again, I missed the interviews. I didn't get a chance to answer the questions, but all my questions were in the list. So it's the best I can do for where I'm at here.
Yeah, another piece of it that I'll touch on is that they both felt that there'd be the amount of work in the short time that we have to do it. They felt that there'd be 2 shifts going on, and the first group had only provided 1 full-time person on the job, and the second group is providing 2 full-time people to cover the 2 shifts. And for safety reasons, to make sure things are being built properly while the people are here on a second shift, having that second full-time person out of the gate was the right approach. Putting on 1 person, saying you think you can handle the job with 1 full-time person, to me was a little concerning. So, I mean, 2 shifts, that's, you have a group of people working for 7 hours without a construction manager there, that could be problematic. So again, it's the Jacobs, they came out of the gate, they answered the RFP line by line, and it's there in black and white, so it was a no-brainer.
I'm just thinking about it because it's the first time I'm hearing all of this. So You said New Rochelle. I mean, do we have, not that New Rochelle is not important as far as the work that they've done, but were there any other districts nearby that we have a?
New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz, they did work at. The project manager is out of Hyde Park, so he is, you know, in the area. I called business officials, Larry called facilities directors, and again, for both firms, they both received good recommendations from the people that they worked with.
As I recall, and I don't remember if this was their firm that did it, but the manager, the construction manager that they're putting on this project is the same manager that did, I believe it was the library?
The FDR library.
The library, so there's definitely some experience in, you know, different things, and, you know, and listen, he said, I got to drive by, I see these buildings, it's not going to be, you know, he knows, he lives right across the river, so.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Any old business? Any new business? Other items, we have the proposed schedule is attached for everybody's, if there's any conflicts, if anybody's aware of. We've checked, we're good. June, we don't have to move the dates. We're good with the budget hearings and everything. That's all been looked at. So I think we're in a, should be solid. We shouldn't have to make any changes next year, so everybody can block out the dates. So that's, we don't have to approve that, right? That's just.
Yeah, we'll put it on for the July meeting.
Okay. Was there something else we were supposed to do? No, I think we did everything, okay. Anybody else have any other items? Okay. Recognition of district residents and others? Okay. So we have a proposed executive set. We're going to go into executive session for employment history of particular persons, proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, and collective bargaining negotiations. And we're going to invite both of our board member-elects into the meeting with us. I got a motion going to exec. James, second. Russell, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. There may, I will say, there may or may not be action after the board